Welcome to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, and for almost a decade, I have been a transformation coach and therapist. This podcast is all about lifting the veil of consciousness and awakening to the truth. It is also about helping you to raise the bar in all areas of your life and relationships by starting with you. If you're ready to take back your personal power and reclaim your life, you have come to the right place. I'm so glad that you're here, so let's get started with today's episode. I have the privilege, I feel like it's a privilege and an honor to get to work with so many women in all parts of the world, literally all over the world, who are navigating these mind-fucking narcissistic relationships. And there's always common themes in these relationships. And one of them is, we talked about in the previous episode around difficulties and impossibilities of co-parenting. There's no co-parenting with an ex narcissistic partner. But one is also this fear or the sadness around losing time with the kids, losing time with the children. We touched on this last time, but I want to go a little deeper into this because it is such a big hurdle for women to get to acceptance that they need to leave. There's all these barriers, right? This is basically what we're talking about here, is these mental barriers that keep us stuck, that keep us in the same situations. And yes, there are some levels of loss involved in leaving the relationship. And each woman gets to a place of readiness to accept those losses in order to gain her freedom and to gain the gains that come as part of getting the hell away from something that is just so soul destroying, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, for some women on every level. You cannot thrive in it, right? You can try your hardest. You can try everything under the sun and read all the books and do all the classes and workshops, do all the self-care, the self-growth, go after your goals, focus on your work. Yes, absolutely do all those things. Get your money shit together. Get all that in order. But what I'm saying is that you will never fully thrive and be able to heal fully while you are sharing a space with someone like this. Even if you try to live separate lives, you know how it goes. You're not actually living separate lives because their energy is in the space. You can't get away from that. And so one of the things that we have to explore in this journey of leaving is that, especially if you have younger kids, that you're going to potentially lose time with them if they do go with the other parent, whether it's weekends or whatever the agreement that you come to with around this, is that is part of the loss of it. And yeah, you might not be in a place where you're ready to hear actually when you get to experience having a few days just on your own to heal, to focus on yourself, to take care of you, to whatever, work out, go for walks, write in your journal, read books, work on your business, see friends, be by yourself. You know, at first, the idea of losing time with them feels traumatic and impossible, and like that's too much to bear to even consider. So there's different stages of this. And again, I think that it really depends on the age of your kids. If you have really young kids, I think that could be a really more intense feeling. But losing time with them to the other parent, losing those firsts, losing moments with them, losing certain occasions that you won't have them if the other parent has them. This is all part of it. So I'm not here to minimize that and say, oh, just look at the positive. It is a loss, and it is part of what you have to let go of in the process of this. But the other side of this is you need to look at the state that you're in right now. I know for me, I got to a place where I realized that the darkness of where I was at, like I had to make a change in order to choose myself. And we all get to that at different times, different places. Some of us do really try to buckle down and make it work till the kids reach a certain age or until we get to a certain place in our finances or our careers. Sometimes that's the case, and there's not anything wrong with that as long as your goal, and you know in the back of your mind, like, my goal is to get the fuck out of here because I know this is not going to change. I don't want you to do all those things thinking that you're going to make this work or make them change. So you have to go through these things knowing this is not going to change. And so knowing that, what do I need to do to get my shit together? And part of that is the inner work. And part of the inner work that we do in my program is having these levels of acceptance around the hard pieces, the fear and the loss, and being able to feel that and accept that that is a loss and not sugarcoat it, right? So you will lose time with your kids. So that is the worst case scenario, right? And I know that can be scary. And at the same time, you are barely functioning. You're barely surviving. You probably are short with your kids, snapping your kids, checked out, distracted, depressed, anxious, burned out, your brain fog. You've got so much going on that you're not even you can't even think about going off and doing things with the kids because you're just barely surviving the day. So the idea of taking them off to go do things sometimes can just feel like too overwhelming. And so they end up with this other parent that is not involved, disengaged, abusive, an asshole. You're dealing with all his nonsense. And then they look over and they see mom who's not doing so well. I hope that's not you. Maybe you are doing okay and you're thriving still and you're doing well and you feel like you're doing really great on all fronts. Could be you. If that's you, awesome. But I just know that the majority of women, they're at that point where they're barely just kind of surviving. So the kid has one parent that's absent for one reason and another who's absent for another reason. So in the end, they're with two absent parents. I know you have the best interest of them at heart, and I know that it's not your intention, but your ability to show up for them fully is very much compromised because of the abuse and environment that you're living in. So they don't have one parent that is in a solid state everywhere they look. And so this is the mind frame shift, the paradigm shift that we need to make in order to accept that getting out of this relationship is going to be better for me and them in the long run. Now, of course, if you're dealing with someone who's a drug addict, an alcoholic, who's physically abusive, who you are fearful will physically harm the children, that is a whole other, that's just like a whole other category. I can't imagine that, although I have been in that situation in my distant past, where I did have that as a fear for my kids' safety at the time. This was back in my teen years with my first son, my first child. So I do get that fear, and you need to make sure that you're dealing with that from the legal side of things, that you're tracking and documenting anything that might be like of a danger. Like that's a whole other thing that's very serious. That is one area where I would say, yeah, you want to try and keep your kids away from them. If you really feel for their physical safety, I don't know, and this is not legal advice by any means, but like for me, I would just be like, no, my kid is not going there because I know he hits him, or I know he kicks him, or I know he spanks him. He's not going there. And I would stand with like 10 toes in the dirt. Like, no. If I was in that situation, right? That's what would come out of me. But if we're talking about someone who basically can take care of the kids' basic needs, they have food, clothing, shelter, a bed to lie in, like they're taken care of, then we're talking about that you're going to lose time with them to the other parent. But when they come back to you, you're going to be better mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. You're not going to be hijacked by all of the stress hormones and the anxiety and the nonsense that's going on. And they're going to be able to see and feel the differences between each home. And they're going to know what feels good and what doesn't. They're going to learn this. Whereas when they're living in this, you don't even know what feels good and doesn't anymore when you're in it. You don't realize until you get out and away for like at least 30 days where you're not near this person or talking with this person. Your head clears, the fog clears, and then you get one little like interaction with them and you just like feel like you're brought right back there again. Like you don't know that till you get the distance. Kids are the same way. They won't know that until they get to experience the opposite, which is you, hopefully, taking care of yourself, looking after yourself, getting healthy, eating well, exercising, sleeping well, getting into hobbies or doing things that fulfill you, surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good about yourself and your life, right? So your kids will be coming to you and experiencing a healthier mother, a happier mother, a more fulfilled mother. Whereas right now, if you're still in the relationship, they don't experience that. They experience you as you are now. So part of this is getting real with where you're at right now. On a level of 1 to 10, how are you able to show up for your kids? What are they getting? Are they getting a 1 or a 10 out of you? Right? 10 being just like you feel like you are really showing up as a mother and for yourself in all areas. And then asking yourself, is that what they deserve? Like, this is my very best right now, and it's a 2. Right? It's getting honest. Honest about where you're at. Do the kids need 2 parents that are not there for them? They need 1 solid parent. Just 1. 2 is great. Of course, in a perfect world, we would all have 2 solid, engaged, healthy parents. But we're not living in unicorn land. That's not what you're dealing with. So this is me speaking to you that you have to be it. It's on you. We talked about this last time. You have to accept that this is on you 100%. If they do anything to help with the kids, to make anything easier with the kids, or play with them at the park for a little while, like whatever, that's a bonus. You're like, yay, yay, I won. But 99% of the time, it's you. Like, it's not I don't think I've ever heard of a case where there is an actively involved ex-parent. In fact, they end up getting into another relationship, forming a whole new family. Well, their first family kind of ends up with the scraps or as a second thought. So you have to be it. You have to be the solid parent for them. And that starts with taking care of you. And that only begins with you getting out of the situation. And I know that's not an easy thing to get to. It's not a quick cut and dried A to B process. I know that it's not. It's very difficult to get to that realization, walk through the steps, face the realities, and actually walk through the hell and the aftermath of the situation. And that's why with my program, and the cycle started off as a 4-week quickie 30-day intensive thing. And now we have extended it. So the whole entire program is understanding the cycle, understanding narcissistic abuse, especially covert abuse, understanding your responses, your triggers, your boundaries, your needs, your self-awareness, to forming your exit plan, how to get the fuck out and stay out. And then what do you do on the other end? How do you handle the wake of leaving, the emotional shock, the burnout, the feeling like you've been hit by a Mack truck, the feeling like maybe you made an awful mistake, the feeling like maybe you should go back, that it would be easier, the physical issues, the other issues you're going to face on the other side, as far as even dating. Like, some women end up where they're like, hey, I met up with someone and all my shit's coming up, help me. So in the program, you are supported every step of the way. It's on your timing. It's not on a timeline like, hey, you need to get from here to here in 4 weeks. It is on your own timing. The way the program is set up, it is to support you every step of the way. I don't want to leave anyone hanging at, part of the process and journey, and you're kind of left to figure it out yourself. The program has evolved into helping you through the whole process. So if you are interested in that, make sure to get on the wait list for the next intake. The link is in the show notes here in this episode, or you can always find information on my Awakening Women official Instagram account. In my bio link, there's always updated information on how you can join my program or work with me, whatever's available at the time of listening to this episode. So a recap, remember that number 1, your children just need 1 involved, healthy, grounded, sound parent And yes, it can be you. You can get there. And second, be prepared to be 100% it. You've got to, be prepared to shoulder it all. Not fair, but it's the reality. And the third is you need to get yourself into a place where you are able to be that one solid parent for your children. So I hope to see you in the next cohort of End the Cycle Evolve. That's where I can best support you in that journey. But regardless, just getting to the level of acceptance that this isn't going to change and they're never going to begin to show up for you or show up for their kids rather, in the way that a good parent would. They won't. They talk a lot of talk, but there's no action that lines up with that. And they will try to make your life living hell no matter what, or they will just try to be very difficult no matter what. So the reality is losing time with the child, but having the rest of your time being happy, being more content and peaceful while you're losing some days with your children versus what you're living in now. And that takes some time to come to a level of acceptance and readiness for that. So when you're ready, then I can help you inside the program. All right, take care. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. If you love this show and it has served you and helped you on your journey, please take a moment right now and leave a rating and review in iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like more daily content, videos, and inspiration, come on over and join me at Awakening Women Support Official over on Instagram, where we can connect and you can continue your transformation and growth journey. And I'll see you online. Take care.